If you want a cheap and easy way to make your own cider at home, stick around because today we're going to turn some standard store-bought apple juice into about a 5% cider. What's up guys, it's Zach here from Metal and Mutt Homebrew. Welcome back to another video. Sorry it's been a while since I posted. As before, I've been quite busy, little kids and that, just haven't had the time for full-on all-grain brew days. Hence this video, something a little bit different. Number one, I'm just going to video as we do it instead of make the videos early and sort of edit it over the top. And number two, I'm not making beer, but stick with me, we are making cider. Full disclosure, I've never actually done this before, but I think I've got a pretty good idea of what I need to be doing with it. The plan is just to turn standard shop bought cider, so that's Tesco's Growers Harvest, it was about 89p per litre. We're going to turn that into a nice hard cider. The plan is going to be to stick that on the kegerator behind me. Obviously, if you haven't got a kegerator, there's no issues with bottling that. No problems there whatsoever. I'm going to use my slightly fancier fermenter, the Fermenter King Junior, just because it's what I've got. But again, there's absolutely no reason you couldn't use plastic bucket fermenter with a tap on. No issues there whatsoever. It seems mega simple, this. All you got to do is mix your apple juice with some pectolase, which from what I've read will help clear it up. It'll clear pectin up, so it's something that's specific to fruit-based alcohol. It causes a haze. The pectolase should clear that up. You will need some yeast nutrient because it's not like beer where you brew it with the grains and everything else that provides a lot of the stuff the yeast need. I still use yeast in beer anyway, but you're definitely going to need some yeast nutrient. Obviously some yeast. I'm using the Mangrove Jack's cider yeast. I've got the benefit of having a fermentation chamber out in the outhouse, so I can ferment this at the exact temperature I want it at. If you haven't got that luxury, you could definitely use a cider yeast. They want to be around 20 degrees C. You could just wrap it up in a blanket and stick it in a cupboard that stays at a fairly consistent temperature. That's what you really want to be aware of. Keep it in the temperature range for the yeast, but what you really don't want is big temperature swings, because if it gets too cold, your yeast will stop. If it gets too hot, your yeast can start getting stressed out, throwing weird off flavors and ruin your drink. So yeah, if you haven't got the option, wrap it in a nice blanket and stick it in a cupboard. And that should work absolutely fine. Failing that, if you live somewhere really hot, there's absolutely no harm in getting a thermotolerant yeast like Kvike that ferment really well at hotter temperatures. The benefit of those is they will also ferment at your standard room temperature, 20 degrees C and slightly lower. But if it does get really hot, they'll just rip through it even faster and not give you any off flavors. So that would be my sort of advice doing that. But anyway, let's get into it. So as with anything brewing related, cleanliness and sanitation are the big things. So my fermenter's all been cleaned. I've sanitized it. I use ChemSan, you could use StarSan, whatever you've got. I've got a bucket full of ChemSan here as well. So I know that everything in there that I need is ready to rock and roll. I'm just going to empty out the last few bits. So that is now nice, clean, sanitized, ready to rock and roll. I think I might use a funnel just to, actually, do I need a funnel? Let's have a go without. I'm just going to whack all of my apple juice in, basically, see if we can not spill it. So I'm making a 9 litre batch. That is literally 9 litres of apple juice. I've already measured the gravity. 1.044 is my starting gravity. Obviously, you can do that with a hydrometer or a refractometer, whatever you've got. I measured it before I started, just for convenience more than anything else. Oh. I'll get all of this in, and we'll probably fast forward this on the video because it's boring as shit to watch. Right, that's all of the apple juice in. What I probably should have mentioned at the start is with the store-bought apple juice, concentrate's fine. The main thing you're looking for is that it's 100% fruit juice, ideally with no other additives. If it's got, like this one's got citric acid in, that'll be fine. That shouldn't affect the yeast or anything like that. It'll work nicely. But any other weird and wonderful names you see on there that's outside of fruit juice and some form of acid, probably avoid. I've seen a few people have used Growers Harvest. That seems to work. I think the Lidl fancier apple juice works quite nicely. Whatever you can get your hands on, just make sure there's no weird additives in. Right. Next, we need to add our pectolase. So I've ordered some online, even not offline. And the recommendations are 2 teaspoons per 4.5 litres. So we're going to put 4 teaspoons into our 9 litres, funnily enough. Let's get that added in. So this should just help with the clarity. Just going to go straight in on the cider. Four of those. Then, as I said, yeast nutrient is pretty important to this. Let me just clean the spoon off. So I've got some WHC Lab yeast nutrient, which I know works well. Recommendations for that are 1 gram per 23 litres. That's about half a teaspoon. I know this is a 9 litre batch, but a bit of extra yeast nutrient ain't going to hurt. So we'll put about half a teaspoon in. I'll give the yeast everything it needs. And then lastly, I forgot to mention it, but we're going to add some tea. That should add some tannins and just help contribute to that nice cidery flavour. So the way I made this was I brewed it earlier. I used bottled water. I would say avoid tap water because it has chlorine. Chlorine's all sorts of shit in there that you don't really want in any of your beers, ciders, whatever. So just to be safe, I boiled up 250 ml of Tesco Ashbeck bottled water. Any bottled water will be fine. Added 2 tea bags, which I let steep at boiling temperature for 5 minutes before removing the tea bags. I've then let it cool to room temperature, and I'm going to add it directly to the fermenter with the apple juice. That's that in. Give everything another quick spray because I have tipped apple juice everywhere. Last but not least, we shall add our yeast. Not last but not least, because we need to stick that on there. Don't worry about rehydrating your yeast. You don't need to. It's a bit of an old school thought process that all of these new yeasts are absolutely fine. It even says on the back, sprinkle directly into it, into your wort or must, whatever it's called for cider. Admittedly, I put a whole pack in, which is enough for a 23 litre batch. But the thing is, you always want a good healthy yeast pitch. At homebrew level, you're going to struggle to over pitch yeast. So rather than pissing about trying to do half a pack and save it, which I don't think is a great idea, just chuck the whole thing in. It will be absolutely fine. But that is everything you need to make this cider. So all I'm going to do now is put the lid on, put my airlock on, stick it in my fermentation chamber at about 20 degrees C. I'm going to put in this little badger. It's a rat pill. It's a digital hydrometer. Basically, it will send me readings, gravity readings throughout the ferment, so I know when it's done. So that when it's ready and I've had a couple of days of consistent readings, I can package it. If you haven't got that option, 2 weeks will be more than enough. It should be finished by then. Wait till there's no activity in your airlock, but that's not a guarantee. And then it should be done after 2 weeks, but I would still take a couple of samples over 2 or 3 days and make sure you're at a stable gravity. So what we'll do is we'll drop that in. Ooh, cover myself in star sand. Let's get my lid ready. Get that on the right one. Last but not least, like I say, you could easily do this in a plastic bucket, but I love these little pressure rated fermenters. They're so good. And it means for beer, you can do everything oxygen free. Strongly advise using them. They're so much cheaper than stainless steel as well. But as I said, that is it. We'll give it a bit of a mix. And then I'm going to put it to bed. I'll package it and then we'll come back and we'll have a look and see how it tastes. Cheers. Right, we're in and on to the final product then. So this went a lot better than I expected, if I'm honest. It was fully fermented out within 7 days. It's probably done quicker than that. I stupidly forgot to charge the rat pill that I put in, so I had no idea what the gravity was, so I had to do it the old school way. A couple of readings, 2 or 3 days in a row. It finished out at 1.000, which is what I expected. So that makes it 5.8%. which I'm pretty happy with, to be quite honest. I did add some browsol, which is a fining agent. In all honesty, it hasn't cleared it up that much, but don't really care that much. So what I did once it was finished, fermenting, I've kegged it. I put it in a little kegland, 8 litre oxybar keg, which is on the kegerator. You could easily just bottle that if you wanted, but it's much easier for me to keg it. So that's been sat in keg for about a week. It's carved up pretty good. It could probably do with a touch longer, and I think with a little bit longer in the keg, it will clear out some more. But on the whole, it's looking pretty good. It's what I expect. Obviously, there's not really a head on it, but you wouldn't expect that in a cider. Having tried a little bit of this, it smells really good. You'll have to forgive me, I'm not a cider drinker, so me describing cider is going to be quite difficult, but it smells what I would sort of expect of a traditional like scrumpy cider, like overripe appley type smell. It smells exactly how I expected a reasonable cider to taste, smell even. Tasting it, it is so much better than I thought it was going to be. With it being apple juice from the shop, just fermented, I assumed it was going to be really thin, watery, and just taste like turbo apple juice, to be honest. But that actually tastes like a reasonable cider. It's got that, again, like the overripe, not rich is the wrong word, but that deep apple flavour. It doesn't taste like cheap apple juice. It tastes like proper cider with that really sort of, let's say overripe apple, just the proper, what I would sort of describe as like scrumpy cider, the proper flavoursome cider, not the cheap shit like Strongbow and that. Having said that, with the carbonation there, it lifts it up a little bit and makes it really quite refreshing as well. It's a sort of cider that I think any cider drinker would actually quite enjoy. So I'm not a cider drinker, but I have drank cider in the past, and that's pretty good. It'll be very refreshing on a summer's day, but equally, it's got enough flavour depth to be quite nice on a cold winter night. So I am more than happy with that, to the point where I think I'm probably going to keep a cider on tap from now on, because that was just so easy to do. I say, I know normally my content is beer, and I still intend to do a lot of beer related content, but if you did enjoy that, the cider content, please let me know and I might do a little bit more. I've got some ideas. I might try mango and pineapple cider next and see how that goes, just keeping it simple. But yeah, for fermenting Tesco dirt cheap apple juice and not really doing much else, I'm very, very happy with that, and I would strongly advise you to give it a go. But again, as always, if you enjoyed that, please give it a like, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching. Cheers.